is a podcast about all things holistic health and self-discovery with me, Ask Elizabeth, counsellor, health advocate and fundraiser. Join me as we get to know these guests and learn about how they implement health, well-being and self-care practices into their lives. Welcome to Unearthing Wellbeing with Ask Elizabeth, where our greatest wealth is health. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of Unearthing Wellbeing. This next guest is founder of Anise Organic Wholefoods and Broth Bar Larder, Soulla Chamberlain. Since the establishment of her businesses back in 2010, she has been filling people's tummies with delicious and nutritious foods, including her renowned bone broth. She is also an avid enthusiast of living a low toxic life and kicking the conventional products to the curb. So I stop here and allow you to take an informative listen for yourself. Hi Soulla, thank you so much for joining us on Unearthing Wellbeing. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I am a 47-year-old mama of two teenagers. I'm the founder of a Whole Foods brand called Anise Organic Wholefoods, which I started in my home kitchen in 2010. I'm also a cooking instructor, a health coach, public speaker, really love sharing what I'm constantly learning through my social pages and my blog. I'm originally from the Gold Coast, so I'm a real lover of the sun and the surf and the great outdoors. In my pre-kid life, I worked as a corporate lawyer for 10 years at a top-tier law firm and in-house counsel at a large corporate before I then decided to have kids and pursue my passion in health and wellness.
Amazing. It is clear that you're thriving in the industry, so you should be commended for all of that.
Thank you.
But what led you to this journey of health and wellbeing?
Well, really it was a series of health crises and spectacular crashes with rock bottom that was the catalyst for me to dive deep into nutrition and radically change my lifestyle. So I ended up in hospital as a burnt out corporate lawyer in my 20s and was out of action for about 2 months. And that was a really big wake up call for me to start taking a cold, hard look at my diet and my lifestyle. So, just a typical story of too many late nights working around the clock, in artificial lighting, pressure cooker environment. I led a very sedentary lifestyle, divorced from nature. I was eating takeout food, mostly refined grains and, low fat everything. I was using, conventional personal care products and cleaning products, drinking tap water, binge drinking on alcohol, popping pharmaceuticals and painkillers like candy. I was on the contraceptive pill. I was in a vocation and a relationship that didn't really set my soul on fire. And I was leading a life that for most people is normal, but is actually so far removed from our biological norms. And my body and spirit really felt the disconnections acutely. And all this led to a long shopping list of health issues. So, I had constipation, I lost my periods, had cystic acne, I became legally blind, I had chronic neck and back issues, recurring colds and flus, and I broke bones very easily. Yeah. And then the second big wake-up call happened when my 11-month-old baby ended up in hospital with rounds and rounds of antibiotics and, bronchial pneumonia. And at that time, we were vegetarians and we're also raising our baby on a vegetarian diet because I thought that that's what was being super healthy, because the government and big food very much steer us towards a low-fat, high-grain diet. But when my baby ended up in hospital and my health issues continued, I really had cause to start thinking seriously about my current diet and really everything we were putting in and on our body. And I came across the works through my naturopath of Dr. Weston A. Price. Now he's, for those who don't know, known as the father of modern medicine. And I studied how traditional societies the world over pre-industrial revolution lived in this state of vibrant and robust health through eating a diet rich in natural animal fats and nutrient-dense whole unprocessed food. And after 12 months of really resisting this approach, I finally raised the white flag and thought, okay, I will give this high-fat, omnivorous diet a go. And I started making and eating the food that your great-great-grandmother ate, like bone broth and pastured meat and slow-cooked casseroles and chicken liver pate and other organ meats and sauerkraut, kombucha, wild seafood, activated nuts, full-fat everything, like full-fat raw dairy. We started taking cod liver oil, along, of course, with eating lots of veggies and a little bit of seasonal fruit and, grains. We went from a grain-based diet to grains becoming an occasional treat in a way if they were properly prepared through soaking, sprouting and fermenting, such as a little bit of sourdough bread or soaked rice, and everything processed and artificial was gone. So it's basically just getting back to eating real food. And in the space of months, if not weeks, my little family went from barely surviving to thriving. So all our health issues miraculously disappeared. My energy levels soared, my skin started glowing, I had this sharp mental clarity, my hormones balanced, my cycle returned, and for the first time I was completely pain-free in my body. Even my senses heightened. My little son's immune system strengthened, and my ex-husband, or husband at the time, started competing in Ironman events, and I was able to fall pregnant really easily with my second bubba and produce a really super healthy second bubba with zero health issues. And this was all just from changing our diet. And that's when it really hit home, the power of food as medicine. And I think when all is said and done, food still remains the most powerful medicine known to mankind.
That's amazing. And the fact is that you have gone through this entire journey and realized that basically what you said, back to basics and eating healthy food, which in turn helps your body thrive and feel the best. So as you said, food is medicine, and I think that's the way our society has to start adapting, and it's slowly getting there, but yeah, it's fantastic. So you eventually started Broth Bar. How did that come to life, and what do you offer?
Yes. So what you've got to understand is I never set out to start a business. I simply just started making these traditional whole foods because back in Sydney, around the time of 2007, this food did not exist. Like no one was making and selling organic bone broth or kombucha or beet kvass or chicken liver pate or slow cooked meals or activated nuts. And, you couldn't find any raw treats without refined ingredients. So really I had no choice but to get back into the kitchen and to start making this food myself from scratch. And at the time, I didn't really see it as a burden because there is no greater motivation for a mother than to do whatever it takes to heal her baby and herself so that she can be the best possible mother and try to raise a baby and give it the best possible start in life. And what I found was this unexpected joy and pleasure in nourishing myself and my family. There's something about preparing and eating nutrient-dense real food that is just so primal and instinctive that it literally turns on your DNA. It feels right and you just feel great. And so persistent friends insisted on buying my food, and then through word of mouth, it was friends of friends who came knocking at the door, and the circle just kept expanding and expanding and expanding until one mother's helper turned into 16 over the years, and we were all tripping over ourselves in my home. And I had dehydrators and boxes everywhere and stock pots simmering in all manner of places. And the craziness of it all just hit home one day when my son's friend said, Mrs. Chamberlain, I didn't know that you could make soup in your lounge room. To which I replied, mate, wait till you see what's going on in the bedroom. And I could just see women were just so hungry to learn about traditional whole foods and to nourish their own family. So I started cooking classes in my home because I felt it was very much my duty and privilege and honor to teach women how to make this nourishing food themselves in their own home. And I've, ran approximately one cooking class a week for like almost 10 years. And then I saw there was so much confusion out there on nutrition. So I started one-on-one health coaching sessions, and then that turned into group food as medicine talks. And I started touring Australia with a holistic dietitian to educate people on what I call the fundamentals of robust nutrition, and to debunk mainstream myths that have caused this epidemic of chronic illness and degenerative disease. And so this rich body of nutritional theory and practical cooking classes is now all provided in my online Food as Medicine digital package. So it's really like the consolidation of all my work and learnings over the past couple of decades. And that Food as Medicine package is available on the workshops page of my website. So you can go check that out. And then the universe gave me a monumental shove in 2015. And I had no choice but to set up a retail store near my home in the beachside suburb of Bronte. And I called it Broth Bar Larder, and that's now the home of Anise Organic Wholefoods. So the concept basically was to create a beautiful, small and inviting space to enjoy homemade, nourishing and completely unprocessed foods. It's basically an extension of my kitchen. And because my kids and I eat from there, that is what provides unparalleled quality control. Now, people can eat, hot food, dine in or take away from the broth bar, or they can buy pre-packaged staples from the larder. And larder is an old-fashioned word for pantry. Now, to be honest, I had no idea how it would go, and I was really so surprised at how well Broth Bar really was well received by the community, because I realized that there's this deep yearning inside each of us for these forgotten foods of yesteryear, harking back to just simply simple pleasures and conscious consumption. I think it's so ingrained in the fabric of our DNA that when we consume it, it just touches our soul. It feels right. This is the food your great-grandmother would have made. So all of the food, other than the bone broth, is handcrafted on site in small batches according to traditional preparation techniques, and everything's made with certified organic ingredients. We got so big that we couldn't end up last year making the bone broth, or earlier this year making the bone broth, last year, making the bone broth on site. So we now outsource that according to, my recipe and ingredients. So that's the only thing that is done off site, but everything else is done on site in small batches. We basically offer one meal of the day, and it's usually like a 15-hour slow cooked meal, which people love. There's bone broth, broth-based soups, frozen broth cubes, pate, brothsicles, which are broth-infused ice blocks. There's fermented foods and drinks. We've got the world's largest range of activated nuts, a really large raw treats section. And the bone broth we offer pre-packaged as well as hot. And so if you have it hot, you can add what we call a broth bomb or a flavor bomb to it to add flavor and nutrients like lemon juice, ginger, garlic, tamari, chili, that kind of thing. So I think we're quite unique in Australia in that regard.
Oh, 100%. Like, I'm in Melbourne and I know about like your Broth Bar and Larder, and I'm like, when I get down to Sydney, that's on the top of my list, because it's amazing and it's all organic and yum. I just talking about it has activated my stomach, and like I'm rumbling right now. Well, honestly, like the fact that you're able to educate others as well around the importance of eating a whole food diet and organic is so important in this day and age. And yes, thank you so much for for teaching others about this. It's really important. You also have been educating people on the art of living a low tox life, and I try to attain that in my own life and regime. So with that, you utilize Young Living. Tell us more about that and how you implement a low tox life.
Yeah, so I started my health journey, like a lot of people, with food and nutrition and swapping out the dietary toxins for nutrient-dense versions. But as one door opened another door, I soon realized that toxins weren't just lurking in our food system. They're lurking in the personal care products that I was using on my baby's skin every day, and in the cleaning products I was spraying all over the house, and he's crawling around and licking everything. So just to recap, there's three main buckets or categories of toxins. You've got dietary toxins, and sugar and your seed oils and your refined grains are the main dietary toxins. Then the second main bucket of toxins is environmental toxins. And the third is the toxins that the body creates internally when it's under stress. Now, the thing about toxins is that they cause inflammation in the body, and it's inflammation that's the root cause of all modern disease or illness, regardless of the name of it. It all stems back to toxins. Now, toxins are the flip side of nourishment. Okay, so you've got nourishment and toxins, and they're the two principal drivers of our health, okay, because they are the two epigenetic factors that switch our genes on and off for better or for worse. So the key to vibrant health is pretty simple. You increase nourishment in all areas of your life, and you try and decrease the toxicity in all areas of your life. Okay, so as far as environmental toxins go, I was shocked to discover that our greatest exposure to environmental toxins is actually in our homes. I mean, some of these toxic ingredients include things like PEGs and SLSs and other foaming agents, synthetic fragrances, synthetic colors, phthalates, aluminium, triclosan and other antibacterials, oxybenzone, and I could go on and on and on and on forever. And despite what the manufacturers or the powers that be might say, scientific evidence shows that these chemicals are of genuine concern, and some would say even more concern than the dietary toxins, because our skin and our lungs have no digestive filter to keep the toxins out. And these ingredients are nanoparticles, meaning they're small enough to penetrate the skin. They get absorbed directly into the bloodstream within a matter of minutes, if not seconds, or when inhaled, they go directly into your lungs. And what these ingredients actually do, they do a number of different things. They're either endocrine disruptors, so they mess up your hormones. Some of them might be carcinogens, which means they cause cancer. Some of them might be neurotoxins, which means they damage the brain. Some of them might be allergens. So, the cause of your asthma, headaches, wheezing, coughing, sneezing could actually be from the products that you're using day to day in your own house, on your skin, or, spraying your house with. And of course, our little children are the most impacted because their systems are so much smaller and their skin is more permeable. Now, whatever these chemicals, their specific names or their specific side effects are, I like to say that they all just really fall within the broad general category of chemical shitstorm. And sadly, they've been allowed to ubiquitously infiltrate our lives, our bodies and the planet in the name of commerce. And we consumers are paying the price, and we're paying with our health. Now, the sobering light bulb moment came for me when I realized this. Just because something is allowed to be sold doesn't make it safe, and that's huge for a lot of people to get over, because a lot of people say to me, but the government allows it to be, sold on a shelf. Surely if it was that bad, it wouldn't be allowed to be sold on the shelf.
It's like smoking.
But when you come to that realization that just because something's allowed to be sold doesn't make it safe, that's when I realized I needed to be more independent in my healthcare. I needed to do my own due diligence because no one else is going to do it for me. And I needed to take personal responsibility for my own health. And if you're listening in and you're thinking that you've used conventional products all your life without any signs of harm, I want you to know that while many of the chemicals in your personal care products or cleaning products or cosmetics and perfumes, aftershave and sunscreens and makeup may not to date have caused you and your family any obvious or immediate signs of toxicity, what they do is they slowly poison us through repeated use by accumulating in the body, okay? And then the greater our toxic load, the more our immune system and our liver are being taxed and working overtime to try to detoxify, defend, and protect. And our bodies have not evolved to deal with the unprecedented level of toxicity that we're exposed to day to day. And when you combine that with things like suboptimal nutrition, lack of sleep, chronic stress, EMFs, sedentary lifestyle, nature divorcement, blue light, that is a recipe for a health crisis and, an epidemic of chronic illness and degenerative disease. So what I say to people is, please don't wait until you hit a health crisis like I did before you act to reduce your toxic load. The time to act is now for the sake of your health, your family's health, and the planet's health, because and I say the planet's health because all these toxins do eventually leach into the environment where they affect our waterway, our oceans, our land, and our animals. Now, when I discovered all this, I decided that I wanted to be, as much as I could, chemical free and pharmacy free as nature intended. And nowadays there are fortunately numerous brands that basically meet, my 3 criteria of being safe. We want our products to be non-toxic. We want them to be powerfully effective. We want them to work right. And thirdly, we want them to be cost effective. We don't want them to break the bank. And just be aware, if you're listening in, on all those greenwashed brands out there, because many of them also contain questionable or harmful ingredients, despite being marketed as botanical and environmental and eco-friendly or natural and organic. It's a bit of a minefield out there, just like nutrition. And I could see people getting so confused and not knowing which brands to trust. So I started running workshops on creating a healthy home a few years ago when I discovered Young Living, because Young Living actually surprisingly plugged a lot of gaps for me and my health coaching clients. So how I got into Young Living was a really interesting story. So one environmental toxin, which I didn't really know much about, and I didn't appreciate how toxic it is for everyone, is actually mold. Okay, now mold is rife in places like Sydney because of the our geography and our humid weather. So Young Living landed in my lap in 2016 after a severe mold incident in my home, which left my kids and I very sick for months on end with mold illness. And a friend handed me a bottle of Young Living thieves oil and told me it's university tested for killing mold both in your house and in your system. And I was really skeptical at first because I'd been using essential oils of various brands for over 20 years, really didn't consider essential oils to be anything more than, natural air fresheners and natural perfumes. But when I cracked open that bottle and I got full head to toe body goosebumps, I thought, these oils might be somehow different to anything else on the market. And I was really curious as to how it got this really weird name called thieves. Why would you call an essential oil thieves? And so I started researching it. I started researching Young Living, the company that made it. I started researching why they called it thieves. And I discovered that Young Living were, to my surprise, the world leaders in the essential oils movement with decades of industry leadership. And I was shocked to discover in my research that not all essential oils were created equal. So once upon a time, I used to think that all essential oils were much of a muchness. Like, it didn't really, matter what brand you chose. I had no idea that just like food, so just like with your meat and eggs and dairy and olive oil, their quality really spans the spectrum from downright toxic, synthetic and adulterated at one hand, which is what you'd find in a chemist or a supermarket, to on the other end of the spectrum, the Young Living oils, which are the most pure and potent oils on the planet, according to my research and personal experience. So the 2 main areas where Young Living radically changed my life, and plugged the 2 biggest gaps were, firstly, the oils quickly became my medicine cabinet and first aid kit, because what I discovered is that pure therapeutic grade essential oils are potent plant medicine at their core. I mean, mankind has been using botanicals as medicine for millennia, and essential oils are basically sort of super potentized or super concentrated versions. They're like 100 to 10,000 times more potent or concentrated than the plant from which they came. So I started as a mum turning to the oils as my first aid kit and medicine cabinet to nip any health issues in the bud in the first instance, with some genuinely profound results. I mean, that is so empowering for me as a mother to become my family's alchemist and healer. So, I recognize that there are oils that can enhance my kids' immune system. There are oils that can provide clarity of thought and memory function and concentration. There's oils that can reduce stress hormones for fear and grief and period pain and hormone rebalancing. And, when children present with, everything and anything from earache, runny nose, cold, teething, tummy ache, bite, sore muscles, headache, can't focus, can't sleep, temperature, whatever it is. I mean, there's always something that's going on with them. It's so empowering to know that there is an oil, sort of about catch cry, there's an oil for that I can turn to in the first instance to support their system. So there are options other than Panadol and Bonjela and Phenergan and Mortine, antacid, Dencarub, Codral cold and flu, Panadol, all those pharmaceuticals, all of which have side effects. And even though I stopped using pharmaceuticals about 20 years ago and was using instead herbal tinctures from my naturopath and homeopathics, it wasn't always practical to dash off to a naturopath for day-to-day niggles. I mean, I wanted to be able to reach for something in my home at 2 a.m. when my daughter wakes me up and said, Mummy, I've got a headache or a stomach ache or an earache.
Exactly.
So basically these oils are another powerful tool in our health toolbox, and I just feel so blessed to have stumbled upon them in this lifetime. And then the second main area or gap that Young Living provided is the ability to healthy swap all our personal care products and cleaning products and makeup and sunscreen to Young Living versions as a redirection of resources and a one-stop shop. And as a super time poor busy mum, I just love the convenience of being able to order everything I need for my home from one place online and have them all delivered to my door to streamline the purchasing. And that in and of itself is nothing short of game changing. And that was the consistent feedback from my health coaching clients. They didn't want to race around to multiple different shops, places, and websites. They kept asking me for a one-stop shop. Now, if any listeners are interested in learning more or seeing a free online workshop, you can head to the Essential Oils page of my website, fill out the contact form there because you need an existing member like myself to connect you to Young Living, and then you gain access to all our exclusive resources and educational materials. So make sure if you do want to connect with Young Living, you come through my website.
Absolutely. And the fact is, like, you're able to use just Young Living products for heaps of like issues that you come across. And it isn't like, for instance, I'm allergic to mosquito bites, so I've been utilizing peppermint oils to help with that, because rather than put chemicals on your body, it actually helps with like it spreading and stuff like that, or lavender to prevent bites. So it's just insane and so amazing how you can use different essential oils for different things. And I've noticed that you've been using them not only for your foods and stuff, like to add in, whether it be rosemary or cardamom, but also in beauty regimes and stuff like that. Yeah. So tell us more about what you utilize for your beauty regime.
Beauty routine and beauty regime. It's my beauty regime is incredibly simple. So my view is that if you take care of yourself via your diet and your lifestyle factors, particularly gut health, then your body just works optimally and your skin just glows from the inside out. So absolutely. Obviously what you put on your skin is incredibly important, but what you're eating and drinking and how you're moving and how you're, what you're thinking and breathing and how you're sleeping, they all impact how you look and feel. So collagen, for example, that is the primary structural element of our hair, skin, and nails. So collagen-rich bone broth is excellent and cheap as, beauty potion of choice. And that's why I coined the phrase over a decade ago, bone broth is my Botox, because I kept getting asked, oh my God, your skin is glowing. What product are you using? Okay, so collagen's really important. Great source of collagen is bone broth. Gut health, as I mentioned, plays a really key role in your skin because of the gut-skin axis. So probiotic-rich foods like sauerkraut, beet kvass, fermented dairy, if you can tolerate dairy, they are all important to consume regularly to populate your gut microbiome. As are prebiotic-rich foods, they're really important. They're mostly, we get them mostly from veggies, and the prebiotic-rich foods feed your microbiome. Okay, so they're both important. Vitamin A, that is probably the number one vitamin for healthy skin function. And the highest source of bioavailable vitamin A is organic livers. So get into your chicken liver pate. So this is why in my late teens, early 20s, when I had terrible cystic acne, the doctors at the time just, used to, they probably still do, prescribe a very potent drug called Roaccutane. Now, what Roaccutane is off the charts, mega high toxic doses of synthetic vitamin A. And it comes with a whole heap of side effects as well. Now, if doctors just simply prescribed chicken liver pate and asked, what are you eating? What are you drinking? How are you sleeping? Dialed in all those lifestyle factors, I think we'd have a completely different healthcare system. Natural fats are also really important. And we're told to eat, low-fat diet. But natural fats are so important to our body, our immune system, and also for healthy skin, to avoid sallow skin and wrinkles. So pastured animal fats, so eat the fat on your meat, things like butter, full fat dairy if you can tolerate it, fatty fish like wild salmon, avocados, all of those things are just so important. Lots of filtered water, really, really important for skin function and to detoxify. So I personally drink about 4 to 6 litres of filtered water a day with a pinch of unrefined salt in it to remineralize it. I avoid antiperspirants because you want your body to perspire via your skin. Sweating is a really important detoxification pathway. Infrared saunas are also another great way to detoxify, and I try to go regularly, and I follow with a cold ocean dip. And speaking of detoxification, make sure you evacuate your bowels at least once a day. That is so, so, so important to remove toxic buildup in the body. Saltwater immersion, so the ocean, it's one of the best things you can do for your skin and your soul. And cold water therapy. So at the end of your shower, turn the water to completely cold for a minimum of 30 seconds. And that sudden change in temperature from hot to cold, it boosts your circulatory system, as well as your immune system and your brain health. And it also boosts, builds strong emotional resilience. So a really, really general good rule of thumb is if you can't eat it, don't put it on your skin. You should be able to eat your face and body moisturizer, which is why my face and body moisturizer is simply a premium quality extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. And then I just team that with a few drops of Young Living essential oils. And I just simply mix up the Young Living essential oils daily to keep the body on its toes. So some days I might use lavender oil, other days I might use copaiba or frankincense or helichrysum or geranium. So I just kind of mix it up. I use olive oil as my eye makeup remover. You should be able to eat your makeup, which is why Young Living makeup is mineral based. It's made from mica, which comes from the earth, and all of the colors are from the earth. Another beauty hack I have is to not over cleanse and strip the skin of natural oils and beneficial bacteria. Obviously, if I'm wearing makeup, I will use a natural cleanser from Young Living to wash away the makeup, and then I moisturize with just olive oil and an essential oil. But if I'm not wearing makeup, honestly, I don't cleanse my face. And in the shower, I don't lather up with soap from top to toe, unless you're a motor mechanic and you're covered in grease. Just use a little bit of natural soap on what I call underarms, private parts and your feet. So pits, bits and feet. Be walking around barefoot. Otherwise, if you're lathering up from top to toe, you're drying out your skin and you're compromising your beneficial bacteria. So when it comes to beauty, I believe that less is more. The less conventional beauty stuff you do, the better. I think beauty is more about a reflection of your lifestyle, and your skin and your health is a direct reflection of that.
That is so interesting. And it's funny you say that you use olive oil as your main source of moisturizer, because I was reading somewhere that J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, of all people, always gets questioned whether she's been using Botox or not. I don't know. Who knows if she does, but she said that she uses olive oil and she's been using it for so many years now. So pretty cool. And I'm definitely going to be utilizing that tip. So thank you very much.
And olive oil is something we've all got in our house. So it's not an additional thing you've got to buy. And just find, just get the best quality extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. If you're in Sydney, I sell a couple of different brands at Broth Bar, an Aussie one and a Greek one. But honestly, just, for me, that's all I need. It may not suit everyone's skin. Young Living do make a range of ready-made moisturizers. So if going to olive oil is too much of a radical step, then, once your conventional face moisturizer and body moisturizer run out, I just tell people healthy swap to Young Living versions. And then if you want to just try olive oil and some essential oils, just give it a go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And you're utilizing that for like your body, and you were saying about using soaps only for specific areas, not for all your body. So then you're not actually removing all the beautiful minerals that we've got in our skin. So very, very good tips. Thank you so much for that. You've got a business and that has its burdens in itself. How do you manage that and self-doubt, stress and burnout?
Self-doubt, I'll treat them all separately. So self-doubt, one of the biggest things is to stop comparing yourself to others. So you've got to run your own race. So first of all, listen to your self-talk, and every time something negative comes up, healthy swap it with something positive. Okay. So just like we healthy swap with food, we swap, healthy swap margarine for butter and, grain-fed meat for grass-fed meat. We do exactly the same thing with our thoughts. It's just healthy swapping for something positive, because the negative thoughts are just going to keep on coming. But then if you get into this habit of just healthy swapping for something positive, at least the negative thoughts aren't completely infiltrating, because what you say to yourself, your body believes. So a lot of it, there's a lot to be said about faking it until you make it. So if you tell yourself something and put that out there to the universe, that is what you're going to attract, for better or for worse. So you go from thinking, who am I to think that I can run this business, to who am I not to run this business?
Yes, the confidence.
And then in terms of stress, look, I didn't have the best role models growing up in terms of how to manage my stress. So this is something I used to really, really, really struggle with. And it was probably one of the main causes of my burnout and illness. But over time, I've just got better at it, thanks to the universe giving me a lot of practice. So the universe is going to keep giving us the same or similar experiences until we learn the lesson. And I think that was one I had to learn was, the biggest lesson I had to learn was, how do I manage my stress? So we know that stress is not the external event, but the way we respond to that external event. And we always have a choice as to how to respond. So we can catastrophize or stick our head in the sand and avoid it, or we can lean into it with ease, calm, and grace, and with presence and perspective. Now, I find it so fascinating that two people can experience exactly the same events, but respond in completely different ways. So one can see the situation as glass half full, and the other person is glass half empty. Okay. Now, I've got a lot of tools in my, what I call my stress toolbox, and I'm trying to teach my teenagers this as well. So addressing the foundational pillars of health is really important. Otherwise, your tank is going to rupture very quickly when these external events pop up. So, for example, making sure the foundational pillars of health are really dialed in, making sure I've got enough sleep and support, making sure I nourish my body with nutrient-rich food, making sure I get out into nature daily and not feeling guilty about it, making sure I move my body. I personally love yoga and fascia release and dance, making sure I'm consciously breathing through my nose, not my mouth, and I'm breathing deeply and slowly, talking to a trusted confidant. There's lots of Young Living essential oils that really help to manage stress. There's blends like Stress Away and Peace and Calming, and of course, good old lavender. All these things lower our stress hormones and de-excite our nervous system. And another huge tool in my stress toolbox is mantras. So mantras are a big one for me in quickly changing our mindset and the way we perceive life, because as I said before, whatever we tell ourselves, our body just believes. So when you hear negative and critical thoughts in your head, you can quickly healthy swap them to something more positive. And I wrote a blog post on this a while ago which you can check out on my website, called 10 Mantras for a More Peaceful Life. And I just, on any given day, at any given moment, I just sort of pull out the ones that resonate with me in that moment. So things like, and a lot of you would have heard of these expressions: you are exactly where you are supposed to be, or I am refusing to rush, or just breathe, or I am enough, or this too shall pass, Or one of my favorites is, this is nothing I can't handle. I think I would have said that a million times over the past, 10 years. This is nothing I can't handle. Like, oh my God, the shit's really hit the fan. And then I bookend it with, but this is nothing I can't handle. Or don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. Or I trust the universe is going to support me and show me the way. And another big one is surrender. Surrender is the greatest meditation. So as a former control freak, I have learned the need to surrender to what I can't control and to make peace with it. You're not going to be able to control everything. Mm-hmm. If you can't control something, surrender to it. Trust that everything will divinely unfold as it should. So the greatest thing you can do is to be accepting of whatever situation presents itself, however painful or inconvenient or traumatic that may be. Because if you resist it, thinking, oh, that should never have happened to me, or woe is me, then what you're doing is you're expending so much energy in the resistance, and it's not going to get you anywhere. So the quicker you can accept the situation and then just move into solution mode. So for example, last week I had an entire freezer at Broth Bar just turn off, and we had thousands of dollars of product that just had to be thrown in the bin. And after, profanities came out of my mouth for the first, 5-10 minutes, I then just took a deep breath, accepted the situation, and went straight into the solution mode, and I've learned to go into that solution mode quicker and quicker over the years. Now, try not to get overwhelmed with the million things you want to do or need to do in your life. How I cope with that is, a really good tip is writing them all out on a to-do list. That's so important to get them off your head, out of your head, and onto paper. And while I love technology and use technology a lot, physical paper to-do list works for me rather than an electronic one, because there is something so kinesthetic from writing something out and following it with a feeling of satisfaction from crossing it off the list. Okay, so I still have paper to-do lists, and then methodically doing one thing at a time and not thinking about the million and one other things on the list. You just think about that one thing. That really helps me. So just do one thing, and when that's done, you move on to, doing the next right thing. And a great man once said to me, life is just a series of doing the next right thing. And I love that. Another thing that's really helped me with stress, particularly in the past 12 months, is having sessions with energy workers, body workers, shamanic healers. That's something I've really dived deeper into in more recent years to progress emotionally and spiritually. So they can be really effective at removing things like shadows and negative attachments and breaking the cycle of ingrained patterns and generational trauma. And if anyone out there is interested in exploring that a little bit more, they can just simply contact me and I can give them a list of my faves. Anxiety is something that has come up a lot, particularly in the last 12 months. So anxiety is basically the fear, because everything either stems back to fear or love. So anxiety is the fear that something bad is going to happen to you in the future. So the antidote then to anxiety is really anchoring yourself back to the present moment. And what I find helpful is shrinking my world and my thoughts to each breath and each present moment without catastrophizing about the future. That really helps me. So just coming right back to the present moment and thinking, okay, I'm just going to take one breath and look, oh, I got through that present moment. Oh, I'm going to take another breath and I'm going to get through the next moment. So having presence is really important, and perspective. So then zooming out and thinking, is this really worth getting upset over? Well, am I going to be worried or even thinking about this in 6 months' time or 1 year's time? So presence and perspective is another little mantra I use. Now, you also mentioned burnout. So I think recognizing your limits and being cognizant and conscious of what is going on in your body so you can listen to the warning bells. So for me, when I was a corporate lawyer, I just couldn't work those hours in that pressure cooker environment. There's no point me sitting there trying to compare myself with someone else going, but if they can do it, I should too. So recognizing your own unique limits and just being conscious of what is really going into your body, going on for you. And that means tuning in. So that might mean things like, and I do this frequently, canceling or postponing appointments, saying no, asking for help, sleeping more, taking some time off, because in the long run, it's much better to do those things than being out of action for months on end, or worse, resulting in a serious illness.
Yeah, I think those points are so important, and we all need to start relying on them more. So even though we've got busy lives, and I guess in Australia and states like ours, we are work first and socializing next, whereas I notice in like Europe, for instance, they take a more laid back approach. So we need to start taking pages out of their notebooks, because we need to do this for our own well-being and health, so then we're living a happier, healthier one, but also for longer time periods.
100%.
Yeah. And with that, tell us more about your self-care routine.
Okay, self-care is an interesting one. That expression has come up so much. It's come to be a buzzword over the past 5-6 years. So for me, the 8 foundations or pillars of health that I talk about at length in my Food is Medicine digital package and health coaching sessions. So the 8 foundations or pillars of health are the best and most fundamental forms of self-care. So I actually wrote a blog post a few years back called Why Self-Care is More Than Just Having a Bubble Bath and Other Sensual Pursuits. Because most people talk about self-care in terms of painting their nails or having a bubble bath or dancing to music and having regular facials. But for me, self-care is so much broader than just simply pleasurable or sensual activities and personal deportment and other hedonistic pursuits. Self-care for me is really having a deep understanding of and respect for your body by serving it with the very environmental inputs that are required for its biological processes to function optimally. So self-care is ultimately a fundamental desire to be the best possible version of yourself, not only for your own benefit, so that you can be of greater service to others. So we ultimately engage in self-care so that we can live our best life to reach our true potential. It's not the one-off activities that bring that fleeting release of feel-good hormones amidst an otherwise largely toxic life, but instead it's the regular little things that we do each and every day that help to bring and to build a strong foundation for long-term investment in health. So for me, self-care comes down to nourishing our body every single day with the very foods that we as a species are biologically designed to eat. Okay. Self-care is about hydrating our body with pure, clean water. Self-care is about moving our body in a way that it's designed to move. Self-care is breathing in clean air through our nose and not breathing in artificial fragrances. Self-care is living according to the rhythms of the sun and the season. It's about immersing ourselves in nature. It's having a strong reason for living and feeling deeply connected to a supportive community of like-minded people and spending time with those you love. Self-care is about having fun and playing and taking time out just to be. Self-care is looking beyond the glossy, shiny exterior of packaged products and luxury brands with their slick, sexy, alluring marketing campaigns to understand the deleterious effects on the body. And self-care isn't always glamorous. So it's making and straining bone broth in your pajamas. It's putting on a slow-cooked meal instead of ordering cheap takeout for dinner tomorrow night. It's cooking organ meats, even if you think they look disgusting. It's making time to have a balanced lunch instead of eating on the run or not eating at all. It's self-care is about making a decision to swap out all the toxic products in your home. However laborious this process is, it's about taking the time to sit still, to calm your raging mind in spite of your endless to-do list. It's swapping out the negative thoughts that we discussed before when they arise countless times a day. It's going to bed early instead of scrolling through your iPhone. So self-care for me is really the hundreds of little inputs and processes and things that we do each and every day over a period of months, years, and decades that all create a lasting foundation of health that then leaves a legacy for future generations.
I love that answer, and Absolutely agree, because I was answering these questions for myself for the intro episode, and I couldn't just choose three. I was literally like, I can't believe I'm asking these questions to guess and expecting a just short answer, because it's not. It's everything that we do to fill us up and make us thrive and happy and live, basically. So thank you for that. And our last question, or my last question, is 3 tips to unearthing our own well-being.
Okay, so like kind of 3 top tips. So as you can gather, my view is health is very much multifactorial. And I mentioned a few times, the 8 pillars or the 8 foundations of health. So these 8 foundations really can be collapsed down into 2. So increasing nourishment across all 8 areas of our life and decreasing the toxicity in all 8 areas of our life. So these 2 lifestyle or environmental factors of nourishment and toxicity, as I mentioned earlier, they're called epigenetic factors because they switch our genes on and off for better or for worse. So our health is far more influenced by and dependent on these 2 broad environmental or lifestyle factors than our hard-coded genes. So I guess my 3 tips to unearthing your well-being is, number 1, understand that nourishment and toxicity are the 2 broad factors that influence your health and well-being. Number 2, increase nourishment in all areas of your life, your food, your drinks, your relationships, your movement, your sleep, your breathing, your mindset, your physical environment. And number 3, decrease the toxicity in all areas of your life. So ditch the processed food and drinks, ditch the tap water, ditch the toxic relationships and toxic self-taught, ditch the harsh chemicals in your home, ditch spending so much time indoors, etc., etc. So they would be my top 3.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. You have so much information that I want to pick your brain about, and in previous conversations and talks with you, I have learnt so much, and I was very excited to have had you on and for you to have said yes. So thank you again.
My pleasure.
Where can we find you?
Yes. So where can you find me? My website is Star Anise Organic. So STARANISE organic.com. You can head to the workshops page of my website, where you'll find my Food as Medicine digital package. So that's like what I've talked about today is a tiny little teaser. It's all set out there in that digital package, which is 6 hours of talks on the fundamentals of robust nutrition and gut health and creating a healthy home. You get a 60-page how-to manual that sets you up for life, and you get 5 of my online cooking classes. So you get bone broth, organ meat, slow cooks, healthy chocolate, and gluten-free baked cakes. So basically that's kind of like the culmination of sort of my life's work in one comprehensive package. If you're interested and kicking the chemicals in your home, head to the essential oils page of my website, have a good read of that. There's loads of content there. Fill out the contact form and we'll be in touch. You can follow me on Insta and Facebook, Star Anise Organic. And so there's a lot of IGTVs. I share a lot on social media, so you can learn, a lot. I'm always posting recipes and, healthy, holistic lifestyle hacks. So come and say hi and introduce yourself.
Thank you again, and I look forward to introducing my listeners to you. Have the most amazing day and take care.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Bye.
I loved speaking with Soulla and learnt a lot from our discussion. Her ethos completely aligned with mine and made me more motivated to continue being conscious of what I consume and use topically. You can find Soulla on Instagram at Star Anise Organic or website staraniseorganic.com. To ensure Ask Elizabeth and Unearthing Wellbeing continues to grow, please subscribe and rate the podcast. Feel free to also share and tag us on your socials. You can now purchase a huge range of holistic health products on my website, www.askelizabeth.com.au/shop, to start your journey of unearthing well-being, where your greatest wealth is health. I hope you have a lovely day. Be safe and be kind. Take care.